Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanao Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karvavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Guru Pyo Namaha. Hari Om. You're at verse 15. This is the last verse of Valli 4. So 14 was, just as water rained on high mountain ridges, runs down the rocks, scattering on all sides, so does he who beholds the attribute as different, runs after them only at all times. So basically he was saying that Dharmaraj was telling that when the water falls on the mountain top, it goes in so many different directions. That's how, if you see the difference in the world, that's how your mind will become constantly going here and there. And I mean, imagine again the synergy is happening. We saw in Bhagavad Gita, and here is talking about exactly the same thing. So he's saying that person who thinks that this world is real and holds on to these attributes as different, then it constantly runs after them. That's what the previous verse was. And then let's see what it says over here. This verse 15. So this one I cannot, it is not a meter like to sing. So I'm just going to read it. Yathodakam shuddhe shuddham asiktam tadru geva bhavati evam munir vijanatah atma bhavati gautama. And then it says iti Kathoupanishadi dvitiya dhyaye chaturthi valli. Yatha is just as, udakam is water, shuddhe is pure water, shuddham is pure, asiktam poured, tadak evam the same only, bhavati becomes, evam is thus, munehe of the thinker, vijanatah who knows this unity, अच्छे से जिसने जान लिया हो, atma is atman or self, bhavati becomes Gautama. Gautama is referring to Nachiketa, another name. Okay, let's see what he's saying over here. So we saw that in the previous verse, when the water falls on the mountain, it flows in all different channels. We saw that. So different conditions. But now imagine that there is an ocean of pure water. Just because right now we have khara water. So if we say pure water falls into it, will become khara. So we can't do that. Okay, we have to imagine that there is a water. चलो lake पे समझ लो कोई बहुत अच्छी सी lake है मानसरोवर lake. I think that's a good one. मानसरोवर lake पे अगर बारिश होती है, so the water is falling in the pure water. So then pure water will remain. That's what he's talking about in this. So going back to all different examples that we have discussed in Vedanta, pot space becoming the real space. Real meaning pot space becoming one with the other space. When the pot breaks, there's nothing has happened actually to space, but it's just an analogy. Okay, that's what they're talking about. Something similar over here. So here the word is used, vijanatah, means that Muni यहाँ पर बोला मननशील, the one contemplative person, because each word has deeper meaning in विजाना जानना और विशेष ढंग से जानना. विशेष ढंग से जानना मतलब अच्छे से जानना. क्या जानना? That Chaitanya Atma is Brahman, means whatever my Atman is, because Aitad Vaitad, he always says, this is that. So this Chaitanya Atma, it's me. So this way one who realizes, then he never comes in that Jiva Bhava. फिर वो जगत सब सपना उसको वैसे ही दिखता है फिर सपने की जैसे. And then he always stays in that Brahma Bhava, that unity in his mind. He always stays in that. And then it's saying that Tejomananji was saying, think more and more like this. That's what the whole idea is, that stay more and more in this kind of thought. So when we stay in this kind of thought, that's when pure water is falling on pure water. That's what it means. Because analogy is good, but what it actually means, that's what it means. That if you stay in that bhav, then pure water is falling on pure water. So he's saying that, so once you constantly think about it, so he's saying, suppose in meditation you are saying that Nirvan Shatkam, Chidananda Rupa Shivoham Shivoham, you will actually understand then what that would mean. That's the same thing like pure water falling on pure water. So your vritti, he's saying, your thinking has become Chidananda Rupa. And it will not be any other Rupa. He's saying that, and he was joking, ghatakar, batakar, patakar, kuch nahi hoegi. Koi आकार नहीं होएगा फिर उसका. Because घड़े का अलग अलग आकार होता है ना, उसमें नहीं फंसेगी फिर वो. So that was a very good example. That, how pure water falling on pure water. And then it will not run here and there. That's how you become that Atma, or O Gautama, he's telling Nachiketa, to ye ban ja. And then he brought a very important thing. He brought Shankaracharyaji's commentary on this verse. Because, this Shankaracharyaji's commentary is very, very valuable, because all the saints and sages, they learned from that, and then they understand, and then they explain to us. So he brought that, and in Sanskrit, obviously, I don't know. But the meaning, I will tell you what he said about, because he was saying Sanskrit because he had made the commentary in Sanskrit. Whoever understands Sanskrit might. But he said that therefore what we need to do in the world is discard all the false logic that you hear in the world. That's what he's saying. All different kind of views and all that, just discard them, give up all that, because those false logic will keep telling you the differences, and they're going to make you convinced the differences are only real. So then you won't be able to get established in this. So differences are there. You can accept that, but they are not real. Because he said, what happens if you start believing that the differences are real, you will go into rag dvesh. जो राग द्वेष पैदा होता है ना, वो इसकी वजह से होता है कि हम लोग उसको इतनी रियलिटी दे देते हैं that he's saying give up all that kind of behavior. He's saying that atheist view जो होता है ना, कि nothing is there, physical world is only thing, some chemical soup happened and life just sprang up, boom, something like that. Just, nothing else is there. Don't go with that. So then what should I follow then if I don't go to that? So he's saying that what is worth giving reverence to? That was a question mark. Question mark is accept with reverence, give your own arrogance and pride. What? The Advaita Darshan. Means what is revealed by the Vedas. The philosophy of the Advaita. That you give reverence to. And he's saying that then he asked a question that, hey, what is Vedas? So one of there are, we know that it's, coming directly from the God and all that is there. But he was just saying that how generally we say that mother and father are our well-wishers, right? They have no other motive but to see you succeed and be a happy and good person and all that. So he's saying that they are considered our well-wishers, our parents. If we see any other relationship in the world, nothing comes close to relationship what the parents will have with the child. So here Shankaracharya says that the Shruti Mata means the Shruti is all these Upanishads and Vedas. He's saying they are 1,000 times more well-wisher of you than the parents. So we know the parents say just give 1,000 times more, that much. So he's saying that doesn't mean that you disrespect your parents. You're just bringing that, They also are very important in your life because they have given you the body, which is a vehicle to reach there. So of course that they are important. But he's saying that you can get education, clothes, food, shelter, everything from your parents can provide you. But what is the goal of our life? That praman or that evidence you learn from the Vedas or the Upanishads. He was saying that. That's why it is so important. And he's saying that this realization of our own self, that knowledge is uncomparable to anything else. All that worldly thing is great and dandy, but this is the most important thing. So he's saying that So what are they saying in Vedas? They are saying, and what should we accept from there? That Brahman alone I am. Or this Aitad Vaitad that they are talking about, that this is that. That's what you should accept. And then he's saying we should be thinking about it, reflecting on it, meditating on it, and finally we'll experience the truth. Just like what Krishna Bhagavan was saying in Bhagavad Gita, the exact same thing here in this verse. And then you will experience that joy and anand. So I was so amazed that whatever Krishna Bhagavan was saying, that was Tejomanji said for this verse, the last verse, how it's coming together. So he's saying that we were told that objects give us joy and blah, blah, blah. We started believing that. He's saying we were cheated. That's not true. He's saying that's false. The real is that Atma, and that's where you're going to get the infinite bliss. So that is this verse. Any comment, question, or anybody wants to add anything?
I just was thinking when you said detach, attach, and that is Adi Shankar's Mano Buddhi Ankar Chittani Naham, and then Shivoham. That detachment, Mano Buddhi Ankar
Chittani Naham.
You have to say that in order and then negate what you are not, what you experience that you are not, and then attach Shivoham.
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely.
So that's where it comes. Yeah.
Very nice. Yeah. Anybody else has any question or comment?
We're thinking about sorrow. I guess the realized person or the saint or who is trying to realizes whatever happens, the sorrow is with the body.
Correct. So like somebody, does that mean that I don't, if somebody dies, I don't feel bad? No, I am going to feel bad. Because like one time, there was an incident where this saint was crying when his guru left this earth, right? So then uske disciple ne bola, but you do Advait Vedanta, why are you crying then? He's saying that mandir in which the God was residing, I'm missing that mandir. He gave such a beautiful example. So of course we need some time, to get over that and all that. But if you don't have this knowledge, you can get into depression. It happens, right? That some loved one leaves you, and then you go, and that's what is not going to happen. You'll pick up the pieces faster, and you will know in your heart that they are in their spiritual journey. Right? So those are the kind of wisdom, because nobody's saying that you become like a stone, and kuch asar hi nahi ho raha. That's not what they're talking about. They're talking about having a better, knowing better than before. Hey, what happens? Or even if we don't know, if the Shastras didn't tell us, we're always, kya hoga, right? That's another, that's unknown ka fear. So those are the things that you can overcome with this kind of knowledge, even if you're not there yet. But even intellectually believing it can give us so much peace, and we'll be able to handle ups and downs. I mean, as I said, in the last 3 days, we got news of 3 people leaving this earth, and you keep hearing those things, and it can disturb you. But when you think higher, then you are more like, hey, whoever is gone, you need to celebrate their life rather than focus on their. See what I'm saying? Rather than focus on they celebrate their life, because they have achieved so much, they have given so much happiness and maybe some wisdom to other people and all that. And if we hold on to it, it's better for their journey, and we feel better too, because we are not thinking negative. Because हमारा भी time आएगा, right? I mean, जो पैदा हुआ है वो तो जाने ही वाला है. So it's like I'm getting there too. And then in our teacher used to always say in chapter 2, Krishna Bhagavan has described that there are only 2 kinds of people in this world. Either they are gone or they are going. There's no third type. If we think it's a third type, we are in delusion. So I like that. I never forget that.
So I mean, in terms of the detachment word, we are not detaching from actual emotions or the thought process. We are detaching from the consequences of the thought and emotions. So somebody passes away, you have created the emotion which is necessary for our karmic presence. But the side effect of that emotion for a length of a time, we are detaching that. Right? Am I correct?
I mean, when you say detachment, it is basically if I know that this is a transient thing, you know, like in chapter 2, Krishna Bhagavan gave the highest knowledge to Arjuna. I said, and I wanted to correct that verse a little bit now that you mentioned it. I wanted to, because I wanted to give the exact thing what he said, because that's where his teaching started. When Arjun got very depressed, and this is verse 11, that's where the teaching of Bhagavad Gita started, in chapter 2. So he said that you have grieved for those, he's telling Arjun, you have grieved for those that should not be grieved for, yet you speak words of wisdom. The wise grieve neither for the living nor for the dead. So now, from the worldly perspective, this sounds like very cruel. But he's not talking about the worldly perspective. He's talking about the highest. So once I know that this world is a transient thing, and then what happened was, okay, अगर तेरे को ये समझ में नहीं आता, suppose you don't understand this highest knowledge yet, right? So he gave him another logic. He said, you know that there is something that is born and leaves. The body is born and leaves. So even if you know that, then there is nothing to grieve about. Right? So he brought him to the second point. And then he keeps coming down. Then he comes to the totally worldly thing. And he says, अगर तू युद्ध से भाग जाएगा ना, लोग कायर कहेंगे तुझे. And then people will laugh at you. That was the lowest level. So he brought all different angles. Right? So if I know that, hey, this is definitely going to happen, it's not in my control, then there is no need to get totally depressed about it. That's what he's talking about. You know, as I said that, you know, even if you have a dog, you feel bad when they leave. That's a natural emotion, but knowing fully well it's just an emotion. Emotion is not me. My real me has nothing to do with emotion. That's
so
what.
There are three. Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, that's all I was going to say.
So there are three kind of people. One type of people never gone to the spiritual path at all, and they're completely involved in the human regular karmic actions. They are grieving for life, whatever. Let's say that way.
There's a danger of it. Yeah. Danger.
Second type of a people who are going towards the spiritual path, like us here. We are fortunate to be that way. Where at least we have a grieving and we cry and we feel sorrow maybe for a few days or few weeks or something, and then it goes away, and then we come back to a normal state of a life. And the third one, which is higher people, which are completely detached from the emotions, in a sense that if relative goes away, they don't feel that loss, because they have already realized that this is a life cycle. But then those kind of people are always been rejected and criticized by the second group of people and the first group of people. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and you know, in the world, you have to be sensitive too. You may know the Brahma Gyan and all that, but if somebody is grieving and if they don't understand it, you don't start giving them Brahma Gyan. You know what I'm saying? So that sensitivity we need to have. And, you know, so that's why, you know, depending on who you are talking to. If I would talk somebody from this class and who is exposed, then I can say all those things. Hey, we are not the body, we are not this thing. किसी और को जाके बोलो जिसने कभी सुना नहीं होगा, you are not the body, बोलेगा asylum में जाना है क्या तुमको? Why are you saying that? What I'm saying? So we gotta be sensitive. So this
I
is
understand.
Yeah.
That, right? But this third class of people need to fake it sometimes. You know what I mean?
And in the world,
that they to express to the world that I really feel sorry about your loss and blah blah blah. Bring some tears in your eyes, and that's about.
I mean, you don't. I don't think that you need to fake it to that extent. But basically, you know, like you have to be sensitive to their needs. I would say, if you feel okay with it, that's great. You know, I mean, that's what Krishna Bhagavan is exactly telling Arjun. That he's saying, hey, you have studied the Shastras, talking like a Pandit, but you're not acting like a Pandit. You know? So that we don't need to fake anything. But we just don't need to be insensitive. That's all I'm saying.
Right.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah, that's true. No, you make sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure. So this is before we go start reading. Any other point? And also, do I have a volunteer to read? Sushil ji? Yeah, go ahead, Sushil ji.
As water poured into pure water becomes the same only, so becomes the Atman of the thinker, sage, who knows this, unity of the Atman. O Gautama. Thus ends the fourth Vali in the second chapter. This concluding mantra of the fourth section reasserts the oneness of the divine presence in man and totality of the divinity that pervades everywhere. Man minus his ego is God. God plus ego is man. Annihilation of the ego sense in us is becoming of God. When we totally detach ourselves from our misunderstanding and false values of a delusory life with the knowledge of the true and the eternal, the ego evaporates away, leaving behind only the truth, absolute.
So here this is, I was just going to say this is a very important thing that Swami ji brought, and कितना अच्छे से उन्होंने ये equation बनाया. Man minus ego is God, and God plus ego is man. But then another very important thing is that annihilation of the ego can happen when we totally detach ourselves from our misunderstanding of false things. And in the knowledge of that, exactly the detachment and attachment. Otherwise, trying to get rid of the ego is very difficult, because ego can very subtle way, because when you will see that as we progress in Bhagavad Gita, he's going to talk about different values, right? That it will almost start very soon now in the coming chapters, but as the values get more and more subtle, then he was going to talk about amanitvam, adambitvam and all that, so many. And then when we analyze them, we will see that we may think we are very good people and I don't have any kind of arrogance, but there is subtle one still to, our mind it will be there, and then we'll discuss it. I don't want to go into detail right now. So basically it will be so difficult to एक चीज को पकड़ के निकालना, right? So the best is attach to the higher, अपने आप छूट जाएगा. That's what they're talking about. The more you attach to the higher, automatically things will drop, rather than you trying to push it away yourself. Yeah, go ahead.
When we totally detach ourselves from our misunderstanding and false values of delusory life with the knowledge of the true and the eternal, the ego evaporates away, leaving behind only the truth absolute in all its purity and grandeur. At this moment, the individual realizes his own real nature as pure consciousness. With this self-realization, he experiences his oneness with the all-pervading and immortal truth. When pure water is poured into pure water, there can only be pure water alone. Similarly, in realizing oneself to be the eternal factor, one at once realizes his own oneness with the one that alone is the one. The individual self is the supreme self.
So this is same that Aitad Vaitad. And here he's giving another angle what pure water with pure water falling on pure water is, that if we get this oneness, that's what it means. So giving you another very powerful angle, and then that's why they say the more differences you see, and you see that a mind gets very corrupted very fast. All this, if you see the world में जितने भी झगड़े होते हैं ना, fights and I'm better than you are, this उसी की वजह से होते हैं. Or seeing the differences, difference in religion, difference in this. Hey, why are you looking constantly with the difference? Why don't you see the oneness? All of a sudden your mind becomes shant. hey, at the base level, all the religions are saying one thing only. Then you don't mind if there is any other one too. You will see only oneness. That's what they're talking about.
In fact, even after such clear declarations, if we must misunderstand the true in fact, even after such declarations, if we must misunderstand the true import of Shruti and cry down the Vedas as full of contradictions and vague statements, we must be the most unsympathetic readers and most dull-witted students of our Bible.
Our Bible means Upanishad. So here, Swamiji, when he came down this is a historical thing, there was so much opposition. People were not listening. They didn't, and the Pandit class was really, they harassed him because he was not of that class and all that. And so there was so much confusion in that whole generation. And I am part of that generation too, where, nobody taught us those things. Maybe in some families they did. Most of the people, they just education and all, they gave importance so much to the worldly education, but they never taught us all these things because it's not even our parents' fault. That's how the history it happened down, that everybody got influenced by it, that they didn't give much. And look at it, contradiction. Criticize करने के लिए बहुत सारे लोग बैठे थे, because they were misunderstanding their own Shastra. That's why they criticized it and saw contradiction. And we saw, now whoever has been in this class long enough, that if you see just the word meaning, huge contradictions are there in Upanishads. But there is a reason for it. They are trying to, because he's taking you to oneness, away from the contradiction, but to go to that oneness, you have to understand the contradictions first, that this is what exists in this world, and all that. So there are several ways of looking at this contradiction, but he's saying that unsympathetic readers are the ones that, dull-witted, he's calling them, because it just, they just a bakwas hai, because, they can't even make up their mind. That kind of thing he's just criticizing.
Long years of utter neglect of scriptural studies and the lack of proper teachers for educated class have undermined the Sanatana culture. These have, to an extent, succeeded in distorting, if not destroying, the Hindu culture, especially among the rich and the upper middle classes.
So here he's telling you that how it got distorted, and he used very careful words. It's not that it did not get destroyed, got distorted. That's why it's coming back now. If you see on YouTube, there is so much, and so many young people, so many young sadhus, and their audience is all young people, which is, I'm really happy to see that, that so much is happening now. That's great that it's getting corrected now slowly.
The above tragedies have made of us today what we are, a nation of Hindus where rarely we meet a true Hindu. Even the best of them dread to read and try to understand their own Bible, the Upanishads.
And this is, we were victim of this too, right? That nobody taught us. That is the cream of the whole thing. And even Bhagavad Gita. If I think about it, they should introduce us in the childhood only. Then we will have a better chance of going more deep into it, right? But it was just not there, unfortunately. And Abibi, there is so much resistance. They call it more like a religious thing. Why are you look at it as a history? Religion ko chodo, 5,000 years ago is not that old, right? Because they have, the pyramids are 6,000 years old. So why are you not looking at this as a history? And hey, some wise person has said something, let's read what he has said. If you don't believe in all that, then at least we can do that much.
Philosophy.
Sorry, I'm sorry.
Philosophy, right?
Yeah, look at it as exactly, because that's how I look at Bhagavad Gita. I mean, it's okay if you want to look at it as a religious thing. That's your choice. But Krishna Bhagavan has never used the word Hindu or anything in there. He's talking about such a global, cosmic thing, completely cosmic thing. Sushilji.
Upanishads are the very documents revealing the greatest scientific discoveries man had ever made of life and the value of life. Without the Upanishads, Hinduism is not a religion at all.
I mean, what more can he say, Swamiji say, you know? I think every, जैसे बोलते हैं ना कि इन लोग का कुछ वेस्टर्न रिलीजन में होता है ना कि बैप्टाइज वगैरह करते हैं कि भाई तभी क्रिश्चियन बनेगा, राइट? कि तो बैप्टाइज करेंगे समथिंग, तो वैसे इनको होना चाहिए जब तक उपनिषद नहीं पढ़ा तो हिंदू मत बोलो अपने आप को. I'm just joking, but it's basically, you know, if I say I'm a Hindu and I don't know what the essence of this is, then I'm missing out. I'm calling myself engineer and I don't have a degree, you know, because I don't know what engineering is. A fake degree I'm leke baiti. So वैसे we say I'm a Hindu and I don't even know. That's why sometimes it's very crazy that I'll tell you what happened. So in Houston, you know, they introduced this subject in high school called world religion. So world religion, they were doing in high school. It was an elective thing, but many people were interested, so they took it. All these AP class it was. And then, so they did 4 or 5 religions in there. Like they did Buddhism, Islam, Christianity, and then, you know, not Jainism and all, Hinduism they picked. You know, and so जब हिंदुइज्म का टाइम आया ना तो टीचर भी कंफ्यूज हो गई बिकॉज हिंदुइज्म को इट्स नॉट इजी राइट बिकॉज whether it's one god or many god so they approached in my mission. So you know, our auntie over there, she sent me and 1 or 2 other teachers. They said she trained us how to say, what to say, and she sent us. So then the whole class was like hour and a half, so we gave our 45-minute lecture over there. And they were so much interested, these people. They were mainly Christian, and they asked so many questions. Very nice, intelligent. You know, certain things always comes up, you know, like caste system and, you know, reincarnation, this and all that came. And there were 1 or 2 Indian kids. They asked the strangest questions. You know, like, which did not make any sense. And it's like, my God. And then the other 2 teachers were like, Kya ye? What is going on over here? So I said, it's not their fault, you know, because nobody kind of taught them the proper way. So they were the most confused about Hinduism, the Indian kids over there, couple of. That's what exactly is reflecting in Swamiji's commentary. That we ourselves don't know what the real message is. If you're calling ourselves Sanatan, Dharma.
You're very right, Umaji, because the emphasis in our upbringing was mainly to get established in terms of all your financial health. Your spiritual health, I think, never came up as a topic in our upbringing.
Yes, the whole generation was like that. So that's why I'm saying it's not nobody's fault. It so happened. But now that we know, it will be so nice that if we make effort to introduce that at an early. That's exactly what Chinmayanandaji's vision was, and that's why he did the Bal Vihar. So it's not like you are taking the whole Vedanta and start telling them high-fi. No, gradually building it. About with stories of Ramayana, Mahabharata and all that. And then by the time they come to 10th and 11th grade, we do Bhagavad Gita with them. And they're totally ready at that time. And, kids are so intelligent these days, we never discourage them from asking questions. And we want this whole thing to be in line with science. Because, you cannot, science is all, no, we cannot say science is not in line. No, we bring proof and say, hey, this is how the Vedanta is. Because Vedanta is not opposed to science at all. But it's just a distinction. That's the physical world. So physical world, whatever you're learning, that's exactly right. But something beyond is there. That's what we're introducing them to. Which is a very important thing. Without which even the physical world cannot remain.
You're very right. The Bal Vihar classes are very, very important, though, because at least you set them up for opening their mind towards knowing about our culture. Without that, like if the kids are not ingrained these kind of information in the beginning, once they go into like higher classes, their mind is already set towards just the the financial growth.
Yeah, and no, financial thing is very, very important. Nobody's saying, because obviously they have to, take care of themselves and be good householders, so they can take care of other 3 ashrams and all that. But if they have this knowledge and they take interest in it and all that, they will be more balanced in their life.
More balanced, in their approach. Absolutely.
Yeah, and when sorrows fall upon you, they're not going to curl up and get depressed. That's the main thing.
Right.
Yeah.
I think the one important thing, as you mentioned, that we need to put the science together while even showing some kind of interest to them in our spiritual path. But at the same time, they are very skeptical about the characters in Mahabharata or characters in Ramayanas and all those things. In a sense that they are not brought up that route, that these things existed 5,000 years ago. And so I think we can minimize the presence of the characters while making the discussion, and make a little bit scientific approach might make some difference in their mind, probably. That's my take.
See, when it comes to Mahabharata, suppose that somebody believes that it did not happen. Okay? So fine. We don't need to insist upon that right now, because that faith and all will slowly develop on their own only. We don't need to push that. But it's like I'm telling a story which has a moral. यहाँ पर तो 1,000 stories है. यहाँ तो हर एक kind of child's book has some kind of moral behind it. They are telling us, okay, look at it that way. Who's telling you no? They will find so much depth in the philosophy through the stories. Because sometimes this is what happens. If you give a very pure Vedanta, it becomes very boring. It, especially for children, even for adults, you cannot. Try to read Vedas on your own. You will give up in 2 days. So here, that's why I said Krishna Bhagavan packaged it so nicely. He's talking about a human being who is all upset and nervous breaks down, which we can identify with. Then he built up the story. And even in this Kathoupanishad we are doing, the first few, verses, not few verses, a major chunk of it was talking about Nachiketa and his dad and his interaction. And everybody, it's like you start loving that boy, right? Because uska aise character nikal ke diya, and then we were really, and now he's talking about this pure philosophy, Sometimes it has a very significant role. It depends. See, when it comes to teaching children, you have to see who is on the other side also, what kind of child it is. Each one is different. Like I've been doing Bal Vihar for now 25 years. So I've done 25 classes. Each batch is different. So, so you have to earn their trust. You have to do all those things. And, like when I remember when I was talking about reincarnation, for example. So I asked them, how many of you believe in reincarnation? How many don't? And how many think, I'm not sure. Most of the class, I'm not sure. I said, don't worry. That's exactly what everybody is, So then we talked what Krishna Bhagavan said and this and that. And just 2 days before that class I was doing, I had heard on the news about this lady in Texas, because I was in Houston, right? And this was all over the news, that this lady, she went into an operation, and she was a Texas, hillbilly lady, never stepped outside Texas ever. When she woke up from her anesthesia, she had a French accent. And nobody knew what went wrong with her. And she could not go back to her Texas accent, which she's talking totally like a French lady. कभी फ्रांस गई नहीं वो, उसने कभी French पढ़ा नहीं. तो अपन लोग जो है ना, we coming from that, immediately उसे पिछले जन्म में French lady रही होगी. It doesn't take us 2 minutes to think like that. But these people in the West who don't believe in reincarnation, they call it language disorder. अरे language disorder आया कहाँ से language disorder? So I told the kids that story. And I said, go check it out yourself, that whether, this story is true or not. And then there was one boy in my class who said a similar thing happened to him. I said, wow, what happened to you? And this boy is talking to the other kids also. He said that he also had through some operation, and when he woke up from his anesthesia, he started singing a song that was from Finland, he said. And he had totally has it in his memory, like it was flowing from him. And he said the amazing thing was, I've never studied Finnish language. I knew the meaning of it. So I was like, wow, this is like, and then by the end of the class, everybody said, we believe in reincarnation. I'll never forget that, that this is what happened in every real class. And he then, the kid said, can you sing that song? And the boy sang that song. हम लोगों को समझ में नहीं आया. फिर उसने मीनिंग भी बताया, मैं भूल गई एग्जैक्टली क्या मीनिंग था उसका. But he was very genuine and he was not like making it up, whatever. This is what happened to him, he said. कुछ पिछले जन्म का कुछ switch खुल गया उसका. It was interesting.
There was a story recently about a lady in India, about 1900s or so, that she died and got reborn, and actually telling in what she was in her previous life, and she went to Vrindavan to show the house where she was,
Right.
and also where she had kept some money.
Right.
So,
oh wow. Yes. Yeah, those many of those stories are there. Absolutely.
like they and the authorities went to check that money and wasn't there in that tree or in the plant, and they asked that family, said, did you guys remove any money from here? And our father-in-law in the previous life said that he did remove the money from them.
Yeah, absolutely. So, there are hundreds of stories like that. Now, whether you believe it or not, that's up to us. But they definitely exist. And then, Swamiji in mentions in his commentary, whoever has the book with Swamiji's commentary in the chapter 2, that how the child prodigy can be explained only through previous births. And now that even in our chain on Upanishad class or jokes and all, so many people put little children fluently saying things. So kahan se aa gaya? So something has happened from the previous life. What are some tendencies in somebody that you have? Somebody's inclined to music, somebody's inclined to cooking or whatever, and some young children are so skilled. That singing show that happens in India, I don't know the name of it. Sometimes my sister will share some really great singers and all that with me. And when they sing, it's like you have to practice 30 years to sing like this. And this child is singing these ragas and all, my God, it puts you in a trance. 5-year-old. बोलने में तोतला बोल रही थी वो लड़की, मगर गाने में तो उस्ताद, महा उस्ताद. Where is it coming from? You don't have to be a rocket scientist that, something has happened before of that same time. Any other point for Bhagavad Gita? Okay, I'm going to close the class here. Go ahead, Ninaji.
This is about the Upanishad. To me, the takeaway was very nice, how the Jivatma goes to Atma. When it's all the way to Atma, it realizes to be Brahman. So, there's a three thing, because we think of ourselves as Jivatma first, and to become Atma, because they both reside in us, Atma too. Mm-hmm. But then how the transformation completely takes away, but detach and attach, that slowly the impurities of the Jivatma are removed to become that complete Atma. Mm-hmm. There is no Jivatma as such left. And then to become as the oneness of the whole, as to become Brahman. So to me, in these two verses that they had shown, it was so clearly defined. Swamiji has written such beautifully that, how it takes place. And I said, I always wondered, I think there are three things, Atma then realizes to be the Brahman. And that's what, was...
Yeah, this is exactly right. Yeah. Yeah, your analysis is very good. Yes, that's what they're talking about. Yeah. Okay, I'll have to mute. Yeah, this Zoom, the whole everybody's household can come to everybody else's household if you're not careful.
The wonders of Zoom, Mamaji.
Yes. And I was just thinking about this also, that on one hand, we know that pandemic was difficult and all, but imagine Zoom kept us in touch with so many things. Because though 100 years ago जब हुआ था pandemic, उनके पास Zoom, Voom कुछ नहीं था. It was so much harder. Now at least we can do pretty much all these things, continue with it, not have to give up. Okay, I'm going to close here. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah, Sarve Santu Niramaya, Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu, Ma Kashchit Dukha Bhag Bhavet. Hari Om Shri Guru Bhyo Namaha. Hari Om.